Understandably, funerals are not a hot topic of conversation, but death is a part of life. So let me begin by asking you a question. Have you ever thought about pre planning your funeral? When pre planning, you'll be able to get all of the necessary paperwork filled out. Pre planning also gives you the option to pay ahead. This has many different options. You can show proof of a life insurance policy. You will be able to put money into a trust, or you could even pay it forward. By choosing to pre plan your funeral, you are also given the option to pick out your merchandise ahead of time, such as a casket, a vault, or even an urn. Cemetery decisions can be made when pre planning, and also picking out a stone to go at the cemetery. If I would not have obtained a job in a funeral home, I would never have had these thoughts at such a young age. Each one of you sitting in my audience is employed at a funeral home, and I would hope to think that you have already made these decisions ahead of time. Listening to the information about to be provided will hopefully persuade you to make a decision today. Let me start by giving you a problem scenario. Your mother passes away unexpectedly and you are unprepared. You don't know any family history. You are very unaware of what's about to take place, and you are just stressed out about all of the things that could happen. You have to pick out a firm, sit down, fill out all the information, pick out a casket, pick out a vault, select a cemetery, and select a headstone. And most of the time, this will all take place within a 72-hour period. The solution to this would be pre planning your own funeral. The first part of pre planning after selecting a firm is to sit down with a funeral director and start filling out biographical information. Most firms will give you an obituary memorandum that has a series of questions on it to fill out. Things like this would include a full name, an address, a social security number, people that have preceded the deceased, people that are still surviving. This will also be the time where you can list any pallbearers, honorary pallbearers that you want listed for the service. When filling out all the necessary paperwork, you will be responsible for letting the funeral director know what type of service you're wanting to have. This could be visitations, funeral services, graveside services, memorial service, etc. This would also be the time to let the funeral director know if you would like the deceased to be embalmed at the time of death. This just gives the firm a one-up and a heads-up on what to do at the time of death. Having all these things listed ahead of time will just help the family in advance. It's very stressful to have to sit down and think of a lot of history and information all at one time to give to a firm. The information that goes into the obituary memorandum is what makes up the obituary that gets published to the public. Pre-planning also gives you the option to prepay in advance. There are 3 different categories that entail in this topic. You are able to provide proof of a life insurance policy. By getting a life insurance policy, you will know if you have got enough money to cover the funeral service that you have selected. If there is no life insurance policy provided, you have the option to put money into a trust. If you pre-plan at a young enough age, this will be very beneficial to you. You're able to put money into a trust and watch that amount of money grow over time based off of the interest rates of the current time. The third option, and the least practical, is to pay for your funeral out of pocket and straightforward. This is very difficult for many people because most of the American population cannot write a check and cover it for $10,000. Pre-planning also gives you the option to pick out merchandise ahead of time. I have personally been told that a family member does not want to pick out a casket for their mother or their father. If the deceased comes in and pre-plans ahead of time, they have the option of picking out their own merchandise and they can actually get what they would want. Most firms are set up with a casket company and have the option to show you all of the different merchandise that they have available. This is an easier way to pick out what you would like to be buried in. The next point of topic would be to pick a cemetery. Most people don't know where they would like to have their parents buried, but most of the time the person that will be deceased has an own idea of where they would like to be buried at. It's very easy to pre-plan a cemetery ahead of time. You can meet with a cemetery and go ahead and purchase your grave spaces. This also saves your children money and time and stress. If the plots are already purchased, there are no questions asked about where mom and dad are going to be buried at. And lastly, you can go ahead and select a headstone. This is just one more thing that will save your kids time, money, and stress. If you already have a headstone selected, it can be placed at the cemetery before you pass away. You will be able to physically see your headstone ahead of time, and you'll be able to pick out exactly what you want. In closing, I hope that a decision has been made here today. Take action and take a stand to pre-plan your own funeral. Select a firm. Sit down and fill out your information. Get your money figured out. Select a cemetery. Pick out your merchandise and pick out a stone. This way, in the future, you will be able to save your children and surviving family a load of stress, time, and money.